Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So we are back with the Allen House. We're on chapter 5. So enough chit chat, let's get started. Charlotte had paint everywhere. Her hands, her face, her clothes. But the kitchen looked brand new, with a pretty butter yellow paint on the walls, with white on the trim, ceiling, and cabinets. She stood as far back as she could so she could still see the whole room, and pushed out a happy sigh. "Looks good," she said to herself. It had been 5 days since her interview at Your Title Forever, and she hadn't heard a single word. She'd taken the car back to Your Ride the next day, and she'd gotten to work on the house. It was cleaned from top to bottom, and now the kitchen was done. The red-orange tiles on the floor looked great when they were shined up, and everything gleamed with the addition of fresh paint and a little elbow grease. A plumber, a real one, was all set to come early next week to look at the zinc, and other than that, Shelley was ready to move on to the next project. She hesitated though, only making lists and not plans to begin. She owed quite a bit of money from the divorce settlement, and she received monthly alignment payments as well. But she needed a job if she was going to keep remodeling this house. Maybe you should call them, she thought, not for the first time. But she didn't want to seem pushy, and she thought her resume spoke weekends with weddings and more. Oh, my bad. Her resume spoke for itself. Besides, it was Friday, and surely they were busy on the weekends with weddings and more weddings. Hope Sorman, the owner of Your Title Forever, had been very clear about that. Weekends are a must. You get 2 per year. You get 2 off per year, and you need to put in for them months in advance. She tucked her dark hair behind her ears while she spoke, and she watched Charlotte as if working weekends would be new. But in the tourist and customer service industry, Charlotte felt like she worked all the time. Middle of the night, holidays, weekends, this would be no different. She washed her hands in the bathroom, doused the news, and found her phone in the formal living room where she left it. Just a quick phone call just to know. Listening to the line ring at Your Title Forever felt like torture, and when a crispy woman answered, "How can I help you find your title forever?" Charlotte wanted to gag and then hang up. How could she even consider working for a company that has such an optimistic view of marriage? Be around all those brides day in and day out, every weekend, she told herself. "Hi," she said. "It's Charlotte Manson. I'm wondering if Hope is in today." "She is. Oh, great. Could you transfer me to her?" "What can I tell her the call is about?" "A job," Charlotte said. Nervous now that she had to explain her call to a gatekeeper. "I interviewed earlier this week, and I'm just wondering." "Hold, please." Following flory music filled the line, and Charlotte pressed her eyes closed in an attempt to calm down and contain the desperation diving through her. "Charlotte, I'm so glad you called." Hope's voice oozed honey, and Charlotte pictured her sitting behind that power desk in her cute skirt set. "It's been crazy here this week, but I did have you down to come in for a second interview." "Oh, that's great," Charlotte said, relief rushing in to take the place of her desperation. "When would you like to schedule that?" "My schedule is wide open," she said, wanting to make a quip about coming in that weekend, but she put the words back. "How about Tuesday morning? Those are generally pretty slow for me." "Sure, what time?" "Let's do 10. Charlotte thanked Hope and hung up, more lit than she had been 5 minutes ago. She kicked herself for not calling earlier, but quickly decided she wasn't going to beat herself up over anything. She didn't need to anymore. She didn't have Hunter hounding her for the way she waited too long, or that she somehow weeded her front flower bed wrong, or that she should have said something different to the guy at the golf course so he'd hire her. She drew in a deep breath and said, You got a chance, you got a second interview, and she was proud of that. The days passed quickly, with her spending her time on the lawn and gardens surrounding the house. It was free to pull weeds and dig out old bushes, so she spent her time there instead of her money on interior projects. Dawson worked weekends too, it turned out, but he did help her get out a particularly stubborn stump on Monday. They spoke a little bit, with small talk about their lives and families, nothing too personal, which suited Charlotte just fine. She liked Dawson. In any other circumstance, she might have been interested. The way her heart pumped when he came in the room told her she was interested in him. But she kept reminding it that he had been broken and didn't get to make decisions anymore. On Tuesday morning, she entered the kitchen wearing a long black dress with big gold flowers on it, to find Dawson eating a bowl of cereal at the counter. He whistled and she did a little twirl. Second interview this morning, he said, looking mighty fine in the dark jeans and black polo that had a tiny helicopter stitched over its heart. He wore the same thing to work every day, every time he went, and Charlotte liked the consistency of it. Yes, she said, placing one hand over her stomach as she calmly eating. I'm so nervous. You've got this. He got up and put his bowl in the sink, rinsing it before turning back to her. I found an apartment. I'll be out of your hair by this time next week. Oh. Surprise and sadness whirled through her at the same time. That's great, Dawson. He nodded, his arms folded across his chest as if he was keeping something back from her. It's a nice place. You should come see it.